Coming up, an extra billion. The pupil catch-up plan slammed as being inadequate. The
ITV Lunchtime News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good afternoon. Pupils in England will be offered up to 100 million hours of tuition as part of the government's plan to help them catch up with lost learning during the pandemic. An extra £1.4 billion is being stumped up by the government to fund it. Education unions have described the funding package as hugely disappointing and a damp squib. But the Education Secretary insists it'll deliver immediate benefits. Here's our reporter, Shihab Khan. Well, our political correspondent Carl Dinnan is Downing Street for us this lunchtime. So, Carl, what do you make of what the Prime Minister has to say?
Well, the key...
Well, I'm joined now by Emma McClarkin, Chief Executive. Well, next this lunchtime, Kimberly Wyatt rose to fame as a member of the American girl group, the Pussycat Dolls. Now, a couple who fostered over 70 children say they have no plans to stop now. Norma and Ian Scott, who are in their 80s, have spent the last 35 years fostering youngsters, often from troubled backgrounds. Rachel Hepworth has their story. Now, details of a series of national events to commemorate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee next summer have been announced. The Ford... And finally, to the US, where a teenager has had a very close encounter with a bear and her cubs. The mama bear was walking along the wall of Haley Morinico's house in California when her 4 dogs came out running. Haley intervened to protect them. She's fine, as are the dogs. Here's Helen Keenan. Never mess with a mama bear. That is it. I'm back with the ITV Evening News at 6:30. The news where you are follows the national weather. But for now, from everyone on the Lunchtime team, bye-bye. Hello again. Now the main stories in London. Police are continuing to question 10 people who've been arrested after a teenager was After a year spent shielding in lockdown, transplant survivors say their biggest worry is how to stay safe as the country begins to open up again. The Mayor has warned Scotland fans not to travel to London for their tie against England in the Euros unless they have a ticket. A police dog has been left badly injured after being stabbed in the head whilst out on duty with his handler in South London. London Olympic medalist Tom Daley is set for his 4th Olympic Games this morning. Now, he became famous for being the most loyal England cricket fan, being the only supporter at the team's postponed tour of Sri Lanka. Now, Northolt in northwest London has recorded the hottest temperature of the year so far, reaching 26.6 degrees Celsius. Let's see how long this sunshine will continue. Here's Sally. That's it from us for now. Duncan is back here at 6. Until then, enjoy your afternoon. Bye-bye. The government's education advisor resigns in a row over funding for school catch-up plans. The man appointed to oversee the school recovery agreed. Sir Kevin Collins said it wasn't a credible plan and quit. Also ahead.
Evening News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good evening. One of the government's top education advisors has resigned tonight amid a row over funding to help children catch up on learning they've missed during the pandemic. So Kevin Collins was appointed to oversee the classroom recovery, but said it wasn't credible that it could be achieved with the package announced today. £1.4 billion will go towards getting children in England back on track, most of which will be spent on extra tutoring for pupils. But school leaders say it isn't enough. And even the Prime Minister admitted more money will be needed. Our UK editor Paul Brand has the details. Well, Paul, a lot of teachers not happy. A key advisor resigns tonight. I mean, just how damaging is this for the government's credibility on school?
Failing hundreds of thousands of pupils, it is too narrow, too small. One of the teaching unions, the ASCL, has told us that...
Paul, thank you. Boris Johnson has said there is no evidence at the moment to suggest England's COVID restrictions cannot be fully lifted on June the 21st. 3/4 of adults in the UK have now had at least 1 vaccine dose, and despite the number of cases rising, the country is continuing to take steps back towards normality, as our political correspondent Carl Dinnan reports. Our health editor Emily Morgan is here. Emily, still not clear whether restrictions will be lifted later on this month, but the vaccine rollout going really well, which has to be a positive sign.
Of course it is. It's a really positive sign. Yes, cases translate into people getting seriously ill.
Emily, thank you. Well, we'll have to wait for news about June the 21st. It's expected that tomorrow holidaymakers will find out whether more countries will go on the UK's green travel list, meaning you don't need to quarantine on return. We don't expect major changes, though. Some industry experts believe Malta and several Greek islands could be among the few destinations given the green light. Here's our consumer editor, Chris Choi. Police investigating the murder of a 14-year-old boy who was chased and stabbed to death in Birmingham have said racist language was directed at him and his friends before the incident. A police officer accused of murdering the former footballer Dalian Atkinson has told his trial he feared for his life during their encounter. Mr Atkinson died after police were called to an address in Telford in August 2016. The court has heard PC Benjamin Monk tasered Mr Atkinson 3 times and kicked him on the ground. We'll stay. Still to come on the ITV Evening News. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. Every day, paramedics rush to help people in need, and yet last year, thousands were attacked on duty, sometimes leaving them with serious injuries. Well, in a bid to drive that number down, ambulance staff in England will now be fitted with body-worn cameras, which could act as a deterrent and provide crucial evidence. Here's John Ray. The Royal National Lifeboat Institution is urging people not to take inflatable toys to the beach after several people got into difficulty in the hot weather. And plans have been announced for how the Queen's Platinum Jubilee will be celebrated next month. They include a live concert at Buckingham Palace and a 4-day bank holiday weekend to mark what will be 70 years on the throne. A teenager in the US has become an internet sensation after she had a very close encounter with a bear and her cubs. And finally, the aspiring young pilot scaling new heights in his mother's memory. 7-year-old Jacob Newson's mum died at Christmas. To raise money for the hospice which cared for her, he's climbed Yorkshire's 3 highest mountains. And Jacob told Richard Pallow he hopes his mum was smiling down on him. Amazing work, Jacob. That is it. Raggy is here with the news at 10:15 tonight after the football. From me and all the team, bye-bye.